In the mid-80s, Mike Tyson blazed through the ranks to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. From there, he cleaned up the division and unified the belts, and he did it with an unprecedented ferocity. Still, there's a few myths surrounding him and on why he's not an all-time great. I believe these ideas are based on analyzing a faded and past his prime Tyson as opposed to a peak Rooney trained version. Myth number one: Mike Tyson has no stamina and is only dangerous for the first couple of rounds. The Lennox Lewis fight is a prime example on why people believe this. Lewis, a great fighter in his own right, had the fortune of meeting a rusty and out of shape Tyson that was on the tail end of his career. Please note this fight took place 14 years after Tyson split with Rooney, and he weighed 16 pounds over his ideal weight. Now let's take a look at a younger, well-conditioned Mike. During his destruction of Pinkland Thomas, Tyson showed no signs of fatigue. In fact, he looked stronger every round. To Thomas's credit, he absorbed a tremendous amount of punishment before falling to Tyson in 6. Mike Tyson admitted to carrying Tyrell Biggs. He is quoted as saying, "I could have knocked him out any time after the third, but I wanted to make him pay for what he said." It's not exactly certain what Biggs said, but it is well known that Tyson resented him for being an Olympic gold medalist. At the beginning of the 10th, the referee had to stop Mike Tyson from charging Mitch Green. Against his New York rival, Mike showed no signs of weariness and threw bombs until the final bell. Against Tony Tucker, Tyson's toughest test at the time, they both used good jabs and movement to go the full 12 rounds. Still, Mike won by unanimous decision and by a comfortable margin. Myth number 2: Mike Tyson had trouble with taller opponents. Tyson definitely had an easier time walking through smaller guys like Marvis Frazier here, but to say he had problems with big guys is a bit of an overstatement. Out of the 4 fights a prime Tyson went the distance in, 3 of them were against tall men. The 6'5" Mitch Green was the second fighter to go the distance with Mike. He used his size for the most part to tie up and run from a 19-year-old Tyson. If anything, Green appeared to have problems with the shorter man. The 6'4" James Bone Crusher Smith fought Tyson to a 12-round decision. Bone Crusher, the self-proclaimed hardest puncher in the division, grabbed and held Mike virtually the whole fight. For Smith's efforts, he had 2 points deducted for excessive holding. Tyson, the clear winner, walked away with Smith's WBA strap. Of these 3 fights, the only big man that made a good account of himself was the 6'5" Tony Tucker. He fought well and determined. However, Mike walked away with his belt too. Anyways, how about Tyson's 10th round stoppage of the 6'5" Rebalta? That'll test a couple of myths. Or the 6'5" Biggs. Even a post-Rooney Tyson was too much for a 6'5" Williams. The public, and perhaps Iron Mike himself, was disappointed with these results because he was expected to knock everybody out. To put things in perspective, though, out of these 3 decisions, he won 2 belts, and anyone not named Mike Tyson would have been very pleased with these results. Myth number 3: Mike Tyson's opponents lost the fight before they ever entered the ring. Why is this a myth when so many of his opponents were visibly scared? It's a myth because it implies if they weren't, they may have won. To simply put it, Tyson was in a class by himself, and there wasn't much anyone could do to stop him. It takes 2 to fight, but sometimes, in the case of Mike Tyson, it took only 1.
Once I start putting the moves down on Mike Tyson, I'm going to change. You know what? This fight might not be hard as y'all think it's going to be.
Not everyone sounded scared either. A confident Tony Tubbs made a prediction. It came true. Iron Mike earned his reputation by savagely beating the best the world had to offer. These men, for the most part, were champions or former world champions. Psyching themselves out wasn't a character defect, but a natural response to witnessing Mike's destructive power. After watching the fall of Mike Tyson, these myths came into focus. He's a 6-round fighter. He could never beat a good big man. He was exposed once guys started fighting back. This leads me to the fourth myth, the one that I believe in. Only Mike Tyson could beat Mike Tyson. Even then, he scored a knockout.